What up, world? It is your girl, CB. We do have, say your name.
My name is Keith.
I'm surprised you didn't put the king in front of it.
King Keith, you know the vibes.
Yep, so I am CB. That is King Keith. Well, small Keith, little Keith. Anyway.
Whatever.
And we are back with another episode of the Lions 411 podcast. So we are here to talk about, of course, Detroit takes Seattle. We took down Seattle. Before we get into that, I can let you know where to follow me. You can follow me on Instagram, CB Love That for ya. And then you can follow us on Apple Podcasts or Spotify at 411 Lions. And then Mr. King Keith can introduce his social media.
Yes, social media _ Dr. King's Dream, both on Twitter and Instagram. And then, of course, Lions 411 on Twitter as well. Also, just a quick caveat really quickly. My Wi-Fi is really bad today. So if ever there's like any kind of stumbles or like pauses or things like that, having a little bit of trouble with the university Wi-Fi per the usual.
Apologize to these people because you didn't pay your bill. Just be truthful.
Look, tell Rutgers Newark University to apologize to them for this trash one.
All right, so getting into it, Lions take on Seattle. We win the game. Obviously, Monday night prime time, baby. We won 42-29. We put up 42 points in 50 plays, while it took Seattle 78 plays to put up 29. So, yeah. So what did you take away from yesterday's game?
Well, so first and foremost, obviously, when we did our season predictions and we talked about our most interesting games, the game I was most intrigued by, of course, was the Seattle game, because I wanted to see if they could kind of get over the hump playing against a team that has such a high-powered offense and just kind of does all the things that irritate the Lions a little bit. So to see them succeed was really good, and to see them succeed in a fairly handy way. I mean, it wasn't like a blowout or anything like that, but it felt like the Lions were pretty much in command of the game after the end of the first quarter. So to see them just kind of take on a team that structurally is kind of built for them to struggle with a little bit. And I mean, the Seahawks had some injuries on defense and things like that slowed them down a little bit. So we did have the benefit of having that, but still, against the Seahawks offense, while they did put up a lot of yards, they didn't score a ton of points like how they have in the past. So I really think that these corners proved to be very capable in terms of handling just these kind of receivers that teams like Seattle has, where they have these shifty kind of slot guys, and then they have the big fast guy in DK Metcalf. And I mean, they had some plays, they got off a little bit. But to me, the corners did a good enough job of ending a couple of drives, batting down some passes, playing aggressive. I really, really hate the officiating that I've seen. Is there like a glare in my glasses here?
And only on the right one.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on with that. I think it's this ring light here. But yeah, just kind of seeing the way that the corners were able to take on some of the Seattle's receivers. The fact that they were kind of shutting the run game down until the second half rolled around, and they kind of struggled a little bit, which Kenneth Walker is just kind of Kenneth Walker. He's really good at improvising on a lot of those runs. So I think that was more so my biggest takeaway, is just to see them be able to handle an offense like that, because I think Seattle's offense is just built for Lions to struggle with. Geno Smith extending plays and doing all his little random things. Like, it's just a team that the Lions theoretically, I think, should struggle with on defense. And they did enough. They didn't look amazing, but they definitely did enough.
Okay. So we want to talk offensively first. Offensively, first of all, I got to congratulate Jared Goff of going 18 of 18, 292. He threw 2 TDs. He actually had 1 receiving touchdown, which was nuts. Shout out to St. Brown.
Insane.
I was screaming. I about lost my voice because I didn't know it, because when they snapped the ball and then I see St. Brown kind of taking a couple steps back, I'm like, what's going on? They about to tackle him or something? What's going on? And then he just hurls the ball in the air. And then I see a player catch the football in the touchdown. I'm like, wait a minute, who is that? I don't recognize. And I'm like, wait a minute, it's Goff?
the way the play set up where St. Brown is like rolling to the right, I'm like, he's about to throw. Like I can see he's about to throw. And I'm like, who's he about to throw to? And I notice Golf like just kind of jogging out of the backfield. I'm like, I know they're not about to throw this ball to Jerry Golf. And he caught it, which a guy was like right there with him. That was a 10 out of 10 throw from St. Brown, by the way. He put that was actually very impressive. There are some quarterbacks that Titans Dolphins game last night. I don't think either one of
Oh
those
my God.
quarterbacks could have made that throw.
No.
So that was kind of
Especially not
impressive.
Miami's.
Yeah, that was absolutely miserable. So glad they had a second game on, but yeah, that was a mighty impressive throw.
That was nuts. I mean, I didn't even see that coming. Me now you said that you were like, oh, I know they ain't about to throw Jared Goff. I didn't know where they were going to. Like I was so lost. I'm like, where are we going with this? So to see Jared Goff catch the ball in the touchdown, I kind of came closer. I'm like, is that Jared? What? You got to be kidding me right now, man. But yeah, Jared Goff, I have no complaints. He played awesome, awesome, no complaints. Offensively. I mean, they even got Tim Patrick, Laporta. I mean, St. Brown, Jameson had that 70-yard run to the touchdown. I mean, they pretty much got everybody involved. Jameer Gibbs was, I believe it was either Gibbs or Montgomery, caught a couple passes in that backfield. So offensively, that game, I didn't really have any complaints. I mean, they only punted 3 times. But they only scored. I mean, they scored 42 points in 50 plays, so that was pretty impressive. And Seattle even had more rushing yards. When I looked at the score, I'm like, what?
Yeah, speaking to the offense,
Interesting.
because I definitely missed that point. And you want to talk more about the offense. Obviously, Golf was like the standout. I thought it was good to see the Lions go against a team that they should have been able to just kind of bowl over in the run game, and they did. And I mean, they didn't have to run a lot of run plays. They did throw the ball a decent amount. Well, not even a decent amount, honestly. They really just were super efficient last night. 42 points, like just kind of moving the ball at will. They never really felt like they were like struggling or out of place on offense. They didn't really have any bad series, honestly. It was really impressive to see, and it was good to see them go into a game playing a defense that they should have been able to kind of dominate or control against, and for them to be able to do it. Because the Seahawks again were missing some guys in the front seven that like you should be able to run against this team, and the Lions were able to run against that team. There was some large holes in that first half. And I know Kenneth Walker was able to get off a little bit, and Seattle had a higher run total, but this Lions rush offense is so efficient. Also, you mentioned Tim Patrick. It's really good to see him play up to what I think he's starting to be capable of, because he was really productive in Denver.
Mm-hmm.
Just running over the middle, catching passes, not dropping anything, very sure-handed, really good blocker. Really just kind of doing what the Lions need of a number 3 receiver. And we'll probably see some targets where Golf throws some more contested passes when he builds some more trust with him. But that was really good to see, because St. Brown, obviously you got St. Brown, and J-Mo looks like he's taking that next step this year. So it was really good to see Tim Patrick also be very valuable on offense.
Right. I mean, because Tim Patrick only had 2 receptions, but 52 yards. So that was nuts. He had what, 26 yards, about 26 yards per carry. So yeah, I definitely like to see Patrick involved. Laporta, even with, I know he had issues with his ankle, him getting involved. He caught some nice passes. Obviously, J-Mo. I mean, and then the Lions, they also scored every quarter. Every quarter they scored. So they were 50% on third down. So, yeah, I mean, offensively, I have no qualms. I mean, congratulations again to the Lions for winning against Seattle since 2012. It's been since 2012 we won a game against Seattle. So that was good to see. Obviously, that was good to see Golf go 18 of 18, 100% completion rate, receiving touchdown. I mean, he couldn't do any better.
Yeah, I mean, it was really impressive. And just shout out to the guys for getting that done. The 18 for 18 thing being something that has never been done before. Like that was an NFL record. Like
Mm-hmm.
mighty impressive. And one more thing that I do want to mention about the offense, because we were obviously really worried about it to begin the season. Not worried about it, like, oh my God, they won't figure this out. But there were like specific things they were struggling with. When the Lions got in the red zone, they scored this time around.
Yes.
And that was very, very important to see, is that they didn't get in the red zone and pitter patter and play around. Once they got to that side of the field, they were like, we're going to finish this drive off and we're going to finish it with a touchdown. So that was mighty impressive to see, is that they didn't have to rely on the field goal kicking, which Jake Bates has been fine, but they didn't have to rely on Jake Bates to get the job done and finish those drives either. So very good signs, very, very good signs from the Lions last night.
Yeah, to only have 116 rushing yards, 3 touchdowns. I mean, phenomenal.
Yeah, just
Nice.
very, very efficient. Ben Johnson was really on his game as well with the play calls. I mean,
Yes.
from an offensive side, literally no complaints. I know we'll get into the defense a little bit more as well, but from the offensive side, just flawless game. Very flawless game.
Even with Seattle, even though, this ain't about Seattle, they didn't play that bad offensively. They put up 516 yards. They had more, I believe, rushing and receiving yards. They won the possession battle, more plays, but
Yeah. And I think a lot of that was just that the Lions were really efficient too, though. Like the Lions
yes.
didn't have to hold the ball because they were converting on pretty much every play. Seattle was getting those third and longs and, having to get bailed out by a couple of officiating calls and different things. Like they worked a lot harder. I saw somebody mention, they were like, well, Jared Goff went 18 for 18, blah, 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 but they felt like Geno Smith played better. I don't think Geno Smith played better, but I think that Geno Smith had a higher degree of difficulty last night. So it maybe looks like he performed a little bit better because things are harder for him. But I think the Seahawks offense just had to labor a little bit to get them yards, and the Lions it looked very, very easy last night to move the ball for them.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, Geno Smith, I mean, he played good. I mean, both quarterbacks were sacked 3 times. They both punted 3 times. Time of possession about neck and neck. Geno threw for what, 389, I want to say. We threw for 292, but again, we only needed to throw for 292. But I mean, Geno didn't play a bad game. Of course, he had the interception, the last part of the game. He basically a desperation throw.
Yeah, yeah. But like you said, that is really interesting to see because Goff threw for 292 yards on only 18 attempts.
Yep.
Geno Smith threw for almost 400 yards, but on around 50 attempts.
Yeah, he
It's
was 38 of 56.
Yeah, like the level of efficiency there is it's not comparable. Like I
Yep.
understand that Geno's counting stats were higher. But again, when you look at the fact that Goff completed every single pass and then a lot of his passes went for deep yards, a lot of yards after the catch, which again, you give credit to the system, you give credit to the receivers, but clearly Goff didn't miss. He put the ball where it was supposed to be, and that's all that the Lions ever ask of him is to put the ball where it's supposed to be, let the guys do the rest.
Yeah, I'm glad to see this offense cooking. I'm glad to see this offensive line. I mean, they was just throwing people out the way. I mean, the offensive line, I would say pretty much the whole game, they were alive. It were a couple games maybe in the beginning where I'm like, okay, it's the first quarter offensive line. We need to, but no, they were alive all game. We were able to score all 4 quarters, 50
Yeah.
plays, 42 points. So,
Yeah, I love seeing the offensive line do what they were supposed to do because again, there was some guys banged up on that Seattle defensive front.
mhm.
And I know that we did have Frank Ragnow out, so we could have played the excuse game too and been like, oh well, we got injuries, we got reasons to not be effective. No, they went out and got the job done. Coyote Owosika, playing left guard for the Lions was really good last night. He made some good plays. I mean, he wasn't perfect or anything like that, but he looked capable, very, very capable. And especially on that touchdown run, I think it was for Montgomery. He was moving guys out the way. So
Monty.
yeah, like just very impressive. Very, very impressive from the offense. Like we said, you really can't say enough about how good it was. I just kind of hope that a lot of that continues.
Okay, so moving on to the defense. Or should we move on to defense, or should we get into the penalties?
Let's talk about the penalties. Actually, let's start with the penalties.
I'm gonna say this. I think the penalties on Arnold that I saw, 2 out of 3, I agree with. I think the penalties that I saw on Carlton, on the other hand, 1 out of 3, I agree with.
So I didn't like really any of the penalties on Terry. I think one of them was fair for sure.
The
Two of
holding
them,
was fair.
the holding was fair. I
Clear, he pulled him down and he came with him.
I think that might have been the one that I was okay with. I still maintain that they're calling the game a little bit different for him being a rookie corner, him not being a superstar corner quite yet. To me personally, if you talk about how he has looked in coverage this year, I think he has looked good. He has gotten grabby. He has panicked a little bit at the end when the ball is coming. But he's been in everybody's hip pocket. He has not been getting beat at all. Still got to work on turning around and finding the ball a little bit. I thought the officiating was weak, and I'm going to tell you why I thought the officiating was weak. My issue with the officiating, more so for Carlton Davis, DK Metcalf is huge. He is a unit. He is like 6'3", 235, runs 4.3 speed. Like he's something of a physical specimen to be able to guard. And he's physical. He pushes off. He does all these things. He moves guys out the way. He's very physical. He initiates a lot of contact. So when you get physical back with him, it's a little bit annoying that we play this whole you can't touch him, you can't do this kind of rule because he's initiating a lot of this contact. He's the guy that's physical, which as he should be at his size. And Carlton Davis was brought in here to get at those guys, which I know we talked about during the offseason. I've said he's going to be the guy that's going to guard the big body receivers. He's going to be the guy that plays the jump balls and the things like that because he's got the length. He's not a speed guy. He's not a footwork guy. But a guy like Metcalf is perfect for him to guard because he wants to be physical and Carlton wants to get back physical with him. I hate that they play that kind of game or they go across that line a little bit where it's like who can be physical and who can't be physical because Carlton should be able to get physical back with him. There's no other way to play DK Metcalf. You can't just let him push you around. So I didn't like the calls against Carlton. The ones against Terrion I thought were weak, but I know that there's still a weak point for Terrion. I'm fine with the way he covers personally. Just a couple less penalties, but other than that, I like the way he covers. I thought the penalties against Carlton were weak.
I think there was one on Carlton that I did agree with
For sure,
when
for sure.
when I believe it was DK Metcalf. He was running. They were in the red zone, I believe. He was running towards the touchdown, whatever, and he grabbed that shoulder. I did agree that was pass interference. I agree with that one. I didn't agree with the other two though, but I agree with that one.
I agree with that one, but even that one's still like the physical nature. It's so hard to play cornerback in the NFL.
It is
Already hard to stop these passing offenses where guys have all these schemes and these ways to attack you, and then you got these physical specimen of receivers. Again, I don't know if you see what's going on in the college game right now with some of these receivers, like these freshman receivers. Like the wide receiver game is crazy right now. It is really hard to be able to stop these guys at the size and speed that they have. And when you just barely touch them or you make these little bits of contact when you're still making a great play, it's just frustrating because it's like, what do you want the corners to do? Like there physically isn't much more that they can do in some of these situations. So I mean some of them are penalties, but like some of them is just I don't understand what you want a corner to do.
Yeah, I mean, we all know with the NFL, like the calls are going to tilt towards the offense. They're going to tilt towards the receiver. Only thing with the Lions and their coverage, I feel, how can I put it? So I feel that maybe yesterday's game, it may not have affected us much. But when we go into the playoffs and we have a stretch, this is going to come back to bite us in the ass. It is. It just is.
What,
We
what
can't.
exactly?
I'm saying if we're in the NFC Championship game, we got to go play San Francisco. You got Terrion covering Brandon Ayuk, and they call him multiple pass interference calls. And you know how Brandon Ayuk is. He's a tremendous route runner, number one, and he's a speed guy. He wants to run down the field. They get a pass interference by the touchdown. They get 3. I mean, you know San Francisco gonna score off this. So that's the only thing that I am concerned about is pass interference calls against deep threats deep in the playoffs.
I hear you. I'll tell you why I'm not worried about it, and why I do think that I'm very optimistic about the outcome of what this season will probably end with for the Lions. Um, for one, the the pass interference thing, or like the ability to be able to cover these receivers. Again, from what I'm seeing from the corners, I know that the penalties have come up as a bit of a hiccup. But for one, his defense has still been very, very productive, even in spite of that.
Yes.
Holding teams to 20 points or less. And then in the Seahawks game, while they didn't hold them to 20 points or less, they held them to less points than they typically were able to do. So for one, I think that the outcomes have been fine. I think that they're going to get better, because I think that Terrion Arnold is going to continue to get better. I don't think that the penalties are going to continue to be an issue for him. He's a young guy. He'll get a little grabby, whatever. But as he works to turn around and find the ball, and I saw it on a play last night against Jackson Smith and Jigba, actually, where he turned around a little bit and he like put his arm out, didn't get a call. And he didn't look super far back or anything like that, but he's starting to figure out how to play it. Him and Carlton Davis have been in people's hip pockets. Amik Robertson was pretty productive last night as well. He either was getting to guys before the ball got there, or as the ball got there, or he was getting to them like right after when they caught it and making the tackles. I
Yes,
personally
he
am
led
very,
in tackles.
yeah,
Defensive. Yeah.
I'm very impressed by the corners. But what really impresses me, and why I'm really not concerned, is the fact that this Lions defense can stop the run, and they have been able to for like the past couple of years now. Their corners are not going to be put in bad positions anymore. That's really the thing, is that these deep shots and things like that, they're going to be more prepared for them, because of the fact that they're able to put teams into longer situations. It's going to be 3rd and 9. It's going to be 3rd and 11. I think that this year they have corners that are capable of getting those stops. I don't think we're gonna see the Justin Jefferson converting on 3rd and 18 and 3rd and 24, and Brandon Ayuk or these kind of guys going down and getting 50-yard bombs when they have to get 50-yard bombs. If we see it's coming, if we're able to stop the run initially, I think that it'll set up for the coverage to be able to play a little bit more favorably. So
I,
I really like what I've seen from the Lions defense this year.
I agree and I disagree. I agree with I like what I see. I like what I see in Terrion. I like the potential I see. I mean, he doesn't even give up 100 yards I've seen so far in a game that he's played yet.
Not even close.
He's not getting burned. He has good coverage, as in speed wise. He's always there at when it's all said and done. But 6 pass interference calls in a game is unacceptable. We can't have that in the playoff game. Now, like you said, I hope that we get better. I think we will get better, but I'm just saying, with the 4th game in, and we got 6 pass interference calls. We had 12 penalties last night. They referees, in my opinion, they were flag happy. Don't get me wrong, but 6 pass interference calls. 6.
But let's put context to these 6 pass interference calls. For one, at least a couple of them were not good calls. Then we have to consider who we're playing. We're not playing the Seahawks every week. And again, I think that the Seahawks are probably the team that is the best suited to challenge these Lions corners. I do. I think with them having a guy like Metcalf, with them having a guy like Lockett, with them having Smith and Jigba, and then them having Geno Smith, who's able to escape the pocket and throw these random balls up and things like that. I think that team is literally designed to kind of do what they did last night as far as challenging the Lions corners. I don't see too many other teams that I think are going to do that. I don't think San Francisco can do that. Personally, I don't. I don't think that they have the players to be able to do that. Ayuk is their best route runner. I have Ayuk on my fantasy team. He has not been that good this year. I'll just throw that out there. And
Yeah, so far he hasn't.
Debo Samuel doesn't scare me at all as a receiver. So
Debo get hurt a lot.
yeah, and he's also just kind of a running back playing wide receiver as well. So I'm not worried about it. I think that the penalty thing is more so. I don't want to lay the blame completely off of the Lions, but I think that it's a lot of an NFL thing, to be honest. I think that it's just the nature of the game. You see a lot of teams almost kind of rely on this as a strategy, where it's 3rd and long and they're just going to throw a ball up and hope that they get a call. And sometimes they do get a call. And
Sometimes they do.
yeah, it's just kind of unfortunately the nature of the game. I don't think this is a uniquely Lions thing, but I mean, I get it. I could, if it does continue to happen, and it will come back and bite them. But I think that they
It
can.
will. 6 pass interference calls in a playoff game is not gonna fly.
Well, for sure.
Not saying that we will get that. Hopefully we don't. Hopefully we clean things up. But I like Arnold. Like I said, I like the coverage. I like that he doesn't get burnt. but he gets too handsy. He gets too grabby. He does not turn around. He does not look for the ball. Even Sauce Gardner, did you see? He gave him advice today. He tweeted him some advice.
I did,
But
and I don't like Sauce Gardner, but it's whatever.
I mean, I ain't saying that I do, but he is one of the best corners in this game today.
Sauce Gardner is about as grabby as they come. So I hate
Listen,
to see that he's the person saying that. Whatever. Again, I just think there are certain biases. I think that certain guys get calls that other guys don't. Sauce Gardner was a top 5 draft pick, I want to say. Sauce Gardner plays in the New York media market. Sauce Gardner has all these commercials and all these
and
kind of
that's
things.
what I was just about to get to.
He can play like other guys can't.
Right, that's to our detriment. We are the Lions. They got to know that the referees are looking for calls. I'm not saying obviously you can't put your hands on them, but I just want them to be a little more mindful of some of the grabbiness, because I saw a couple jersey grabs. I didn't like it.
I
I
mean,
didn't like it.
but again, it's so hard to stop these receivers.
It
It's
is,
going to
but
happen.
when you do a jersey grab, they are going to call it against the Lions, especially Terrion Arnold. Now, every corner may not get the call, but now you know Carlton and Terrion, that when they always say put the NFL on notice. The NFL has put Terrion Arnold on notice that they will call against him. It's already about the 5th game. They will call against him. I just want him to be mindful of it. I'm not saying he's a bad player. I'm not saying I don't like him. I like him. I like his coverage. I think he has great potential on this team. But the grabbiness in the playoffs is going to come back if we don't clean it up.
I think we got to let the rookie be the rookie and let him figure it out.
He does.
Yeah, I don't see it as a concern per se. I don't see it as a concern. Yeah, I really would just like to see the refs call a better game, to be honest, and for Terriana, work on being able to turn around and find the
It
ball.
is the NFL. I don't think they're going to call a better game.
Well, at that point, then you do what you can, because we've seen the Lions outplay teams and the referees take it from them. And I'm not saying that that's going to happen or anything like that. That shouldn't be on their mind. But it happens. It happens. I think that Terrion just needs to continue to stay in guys' hip pockets
He
and
does.
make sure that he finds the ball.
Bingo. Find the ball, not jerseys. Not jerseys. The NFL has put Terrion on notice that they're gonna call. I'm not saying that it's not fair. I'm not saying that it's fair, but he is going to get the call against him. So I just want him to be mindful of it. That's all I'm saying. Also, excuse me. Also, Davis, did you see what he had to say after the game?
Yeah, he was straight up about it. And I mean, I don't know what they want people to do. Like, I think those calls are bad calls. And I don't know why they were calling the bad calls. I guess Carlton Davis is just getting used to playing in Detroit because this is kind of what they do. But I refuse to think of a penalty related thing as like this is something that I need y'all to be mindful of. I need them to play their best ball game. Don't worry about the refs. Like, just play your best ball game. And if you're playing up to your capabilities, you'll be fine. And to me, Terrion Arnold is playing good. I do think that he's
He's
playing good.
playing good, but with the penalties, it's people look at that and they're it can be trade-offs. Obviously, he has 9 penalties, whatever the case may be, but he just has to be mindful of a couple things. That's all I'm saying. He has to be mindful. I'm not saying play scared, but the NFL didn't put you on notice for some reason.
Yeah.
They're gonna call it. So
for sure. Well, yeah, with that being said, we'll go into a quick little break. And then we'll come back and talk about a couple small maintenance things before we let y'all go.
We'll be back.
I forgot what button to press for a second.